Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says the sustained fight against trans fat. Before we understand what this article is all about, let's look into some of the basics. One of the important nutrients that is required for the body is the fat. Fat helps in absorbing the vitamins and minerals. They are also stored in body tissues and play a critical role when it comes to energy storage and metabolism. They also help in regulating the body temperature as well. When we speak about fats, there are two important types. One is what is called as the saturated fat. The other is what is called as the unsaturated fat. What is the difference between saturated fat and the unsaturated fat? When it comes to the saturated fat, they have single bonds between their molecules, and most of these saturated fats become what is called as the solid at the room temperature. What is this solid at the room temperature? Let's take some of the examples. We have cheese, we have butter. These are mostly solid at the room temperature. Now, what is the difference between the saturated and unsaturated? When it comes to the unsaturated fats, they contain one or more double or triple bonds between their molecules. When it comes to the saturated, they had the single bonds, but when it comes to the unsaturated fats, they have more double or triple bonds between their molecules. Another important difference, they also tend to be liquid at the room temperature. When it comes to saturated fat, it was solid, but when it comes to the unsaturated fat, they are liquid at the room temperature. So what are the examples? When we speak about examples, we have olive oil, peanut oil, vegetable oils such as sunflower, corn, that which can be taken example of unsaturated fat. Another type of unsaturated fat is what is also called as the trans fat. So what is this trans fat? They are a form of unsaturated fat. They come in both natural as well as the artificial forms. When it comes to the natural trans fat, they are present in the meat. If it is consumed by the human beings, it will not have much impact to their health system. But there are what is called as the artificial trans fats. These are also called as chemically altered. They are also called as industrial trans fats. They are also called as partially hydrogenated fats as well. It is these that can harm the health when it comes to the human beings. These fats occur when vegetable oils are chemically altered to stay as solid at room temperature, which also gives them a longer shelf life as well. So when normal vegetable oil is taken, an industrial process is conducted by adding hydrogen to the liquid vegetable oil. This will obviously boost their shelf life so that we would be in a much better position to use it for a longer period of time, since it is introduced by a chemical process as a part of industrial artificially produced fat. This can harm the health because of the industrial production, and as a result, most of the trans fats which are produced artificially will become a major problem when it comes to the health sector as well as the impact on the health. Now the important question is, where are these fats generally found? When we look into this particular picture, they are present in the baked goods, they are present in the snacks, fried food, refrigerated dough, as well as creamer, as well as the margarine. When we are binging on the potato, corn and tortilla chips, or we love to eat on the french fries, in all these cases what we actually see is that we have these trans fats present, which can be a major problem to the health, says this article. Now let's look at some of the important statistics. Approximately 5,40,000 deaths each year can be attributed to intake of industrially produced trans fatty acids. As per FSSI, which happens to be the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, about 77,000 deaths take place annually in India due to trans fatty acids as well. It poses a higher risk of heart disease than the saturated fats, and it also makes sure that the good cholesterol which is required for the body is also removed by the ingestion of this trans fatty acids. So the major problem is we will have all the health issues, especially when it comes to the cardiovascular issues, says this article. In order to overcome this issue, in order to address the major issue of health impact, what we have is new set of regulations, rules that are introduced by the Food Safety Standards Authority of India. What is that the Food Safety Standards Authority of India has said in the present regulation? Basically, it has gone on to say that trans fatty acids in oils and fats will have to be restricted to 3% for the year 2021 and 2% by the year 2022 against the earlier cap of 5%. This is in line with the rules and regulations changed as per the Food Safety and Standards Prohibition and Restriction on Sales Regulation. So the new rules will be applied to the refined oils, vanaspati, bakery shortenings and other cooking media like the vegetable fat spreads and the mixed fat spreads as well. In this particular backdrop, we also have to understand one of the initiatives taken by the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization did also look into number of countries and the statistics and the people who were suffering because of eating the trans fatty acids which was industrially manufactured. So they came up with a particular policy initiative and requested number of countries to implement this particular policy guideline. What was that all about? That is what is called as replace program. So what is this replace program? As you can see, we have the review dietary sources of industrially produced trans fats and the landscape for required policy change. So whatever dietary sources that are present in a particular country, it requires periodic review, says the World Health Organization. Then we have to promote the replacement of industrially produced trans fats with healthier fats and oil. As we discussed, these are unhealthy for the human beings. So what we require is an alternative. We have to move away from these trans fatty acids which are industrially produced to the healthier fats as well as the oil is what is called as the promotion. Then we have to legislate or enact regulatory actions to eliminate industrially produced trans fats. In the present scenario, we have the FSSAI which has come up with rules and regulations. So it is asking the respective governments in that particular country to come up with rules and regulations, come up with laws so that this can be eliminated by the year 2023. Then we have to assess and monitor trans fat content in the food supply and changes in the trans fat consumption in the population once in a while and periodically as well. We have to make sure that all the food that is distributed to the population in that particular country will have to be assessed, will have to be monitored, and this will also have to be evaluated as well. In case there is a benchmark that is set with respect to the legislation and it has superseded this benchmark, it has to be regulated and people who have violated will have to be brought under the penal provisions as well. We have to create awareness of the negative health impact of trans fats among policymakers, producers, suppliers and the public. So this is about the multi-stakeholder approach. It is not about government making the rules. It is not about industries complying by the rules. It is also about people taking up the responsibility of avoiding such trans fats as well. So it is asking for a multi-stakeholder approach where policymakers, that is lawmakers, producers who make these trans fats, then the suppliers where logistics is involved and the people who consume it all are given awareness about the negative impact of the trans fat. Finally, we have to enforce compliance of the policies and regulations as well. These are some of the policies that which the World Health Organization had suggested global countries and they have been requesting the global countries to come up with such an implementational program as well. In line with this, what we have in the present scenario is FSSAI has come up with rules and regulations so that all these important parameters can be followed and implemented. Also remember, when in the year 2003 this particular issue was surfacing, there were major countries in the world which wanted to stop or reduce the intake or cut the consumption of the trans fatty acids. And from the preliminary examination point of view, kindly remember in 2003 we have Denmark which became the first country to ban the trans fatty acids in 2003. Followed by this, we have other countries like Chile and Switzerland which also banned the trans fatty acids as well. During the same period, several states in United States of America like New York, California also implemented local bans as well. What is the way forward? What should be done in the near future in order to control the negative impact of these trans fats? Basically, we have the FSSAI which has come up with the regulations. It has come up with the rules as well. Now, it is ultimately in the hands of the state government to implement at the grassroots level. So what should happen in the near future? There has to be local governments which have to improve on the surveillance. Inspection of the food premises will have to be taken periodically. Sampling of the food products will have to be conducted by these implementing agencies. Regular training of officers should be taken up by the state governments. Upgradation of the food labs to test whether this particular product or the food item is correct or not, meeting the benchmark standards will have to be tested. So what we require going forward is all these important steps and measures being taken will have to be implemented, says this article. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Gujarat rivers remain highly polluted. What is the context? We have the unchecked flow of untreated industrial effluent which is directly dumped into the Gujarat rivers, which has led to increasing pollution where in Sabarmati, Mahisagar, Narmada, Vishwamitri and Bada. According to data from the Ministry of Environment and Forest, the Sabarmati is among the most polluted rivers in the country, says the statistics. It further goes on to say Gujarat ranks fourth among the top 5 states with highly polluted rivers. In this particular backdrop, before we understand what this article further says, we have to understand some of the basic concepts. What are these basic concepts? Basically, we are speaking about the concept of dissolved oxygen, biological oxygen demand, as well as the chemical oxygen demand. You will understand why these concepts are important from the preliminary examination point of view. We will also understand what is the major causes for the pollution and the consequences because of it. What is dissolved oxygen? Basically, this is the amount of oxygen that which is present in the water. Let me give you an example. When it comes to sunlight, it is one of the important sources of energy. Now let's say when it comes to the normal ecosystem, let's say there is a river or let's say there is a lake. What exactly happens? This is the surface of the lake. So what happens? There is sunlight which obviously comes and strikes this particular region. There are plants which are also present in these water bodies as well. So what happens? There are plants in this particular region. So as this sunlight hits them, it is taking part in photosynthesis, and this photosynthesis releases what is called as oxygen. So what is happening here? Water bodies receive oxygen from the atmosphere and also from the aquatic plants as well. So the amount of oxygen that which is present in the dissolved water is what is called as the dissolved oxygen. But what is the major problem here? The major problem is in reference to pollution. One, it can be industrial in nature or it can be agriculture in nature as well. What happens when it comes to industrial pollution? Let's say for example, as we discussed in the present scenario, there might be industries which are close by to the rivers. There might be industries close by to the seas as well. Ideally, we have the rules and regulations that which have been established by the Central Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Board, where all these industries will have to filter it and these effluents will have to be treated and only then it has to be discharged. But most of these companies do not actually discharge it properly and ultimately drain it into a river. Now let's take one of the examples. Let's say there is an industry which has polluted a particular river, or let's say there is huge amount of plastics that are dumped on top of a particular river or on top of a lake. So what exactly happens? You have the plastics which form the top layer of that particular lake or in a particular river as well. So what exactly happens? There is a sludge that is created. The plastics does not let what is called as the sunlight to pass into that particular lake or the river. As a result, because there is no sunlight, there would be no photosynthesis, and ultimately the amount of oxygen that which is present in the lake or in the river ecosystem will ultimately start dropping as well. So what is the major impact here? The major impact is all these industries have introduced the so-called not cleaned, not filtered pollutants into a lake or to a river. This forms a layer on the river or that particular lake, and now the sunlight does not enter. photosynthesis does not happen, and ultimately there is a drop of oxygen when it comes to that lake or the river. So basically, the dissolved oxygen helps in understanding the water quality in that particular area. So a running water generally, or the swift moving water, has more dissolved oxygen, but when we are looking at the stagnant water or the still water like a pond or a lake, that will have less dissolved oxygen. Why? Because there are less number of pollutants. Even if there are pollutants, it will be moved away by this particular river. But if it is a pond or a lake, because it is stagnant, they form the top layer, and ultimately the oxygen capacity in that particular water will also diminish. This is with respect to the industry. Now let's take the example of agriculture as well. When it comes to agriculture, what happens? We use a lot of fertilizers. So what do these fertilizers have? They also have nitrogen, they also have phosphorus as well. Let's say there is huge amount of rainfall that happens in a region, or we also introduce irrigation as well. So what happens? The excess amount of fertilizer, that is the nitrogen or the phosphorus, enters these rivers or the pond. So what will happen? There is algal boom that happens in this particular layer. So when there is algal boom or there is increasing eutrophication in a particular area, they block the top layers such that the photosynthesis that has to take place is completely down, and as a result the oxygen in the dissolved form is also reducing over a period of time. So the industrial pollutant and the agricultural pollutant is decreasing the oxygen when it comes to this particular area. Now what we have to understand is the meaning of biological oxygen demand and the chemical oxygen demand. Basically, they are nothing but measurements of the amount of oxygen required to biologically or chemically break down the pollutant within a known amount of water. So when we are speaking about the biological oxygen demand, it is the amount of oxygen that will be consumed by the bacteria or other aerobic microorganisms for decomposing organic matter under aerobic conditions. When we speak about the chemical oxygen demand, it is the amount of oxygen that will be consumed by the chemical breakdown or oxidation of organic pollutants in that particular water. With these in picture, one of the important point from the preliminary examination point of view is higher the BOD, it indicates low is the dissolved oxygen content of that particular water. So this dissolved oxygen basically helps in understanding the quality of water in that particular area. Now what we have to understand is the reasons and causes for pollution along the areas in Gujarat. What are the major causes? One is the industrial chemicals as well as the effluents. Ideally, they should be treated and only then discharged, but in the present scenario, most of these industrial bodies and companies are directly discharging their chemicals into the river without even filtering or treating them. That is the major cause of concern. Apart from this, there is direct garbage dumping as well. Let's say for example, if there is a particular river, people who are living in this particular area directly dump all their garbage into this particular river, and as a result the river is again bound to suffer. So what will be the consequences? This will obviously lead to death of many fishes. This will obviously harm the livelihood means of the people in and around that particular area. This will also harm the fishing community, the agricultural community, and ultimately the same water is also used for drinking as well. So this also means it will not only impact the biodiversity where there is reduction, it will not only impact the agriculture sector where the same water is used for the agriculture and irrigation. Indirectly it harms the human beings, and at the same time the water, when it is used for drinking purposes, it will infect the intestine and may also cause gastrointestinal disorders as well. So in order to overcome all these issues, urgent steps will have to be taken to check the pollution in this particular region. So what are the steps that have been taken? The state government of Gujarat has proposed a 2300 crore project for a deep sea effluent disposal pipeline to cater to nearly 4500 industrial units. The project will serve four highly industrialized districts of Ahmedabad, Vadodara, Kheda and Rajkot, which are the main sources of pollution. So these are some of the important updations and steps that are taken by the government of Gujarat. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about section 230 of the Communication Decency Act. What is this section all about? Basically, let's say for example, there is Twitter, or let's say there is Facebook, or let's say for example we also have Google review, or let's say for example there are other websites which also give a provision to the subscribers to come and comment on their very platform. In this particular case, in case there is a person who's putting a comment or he's sharing a video, in such a scenario Twitter will not be sued in case there is any violation. Facebook will not be sued in case there is any violation, but the person who has put up this particular content can be sued. Is what is this section 230 of the Communication Decency Act. So this will protect all the websites from the lawsuits if there is a user who posts something which is illegal and holds user responsible for their comments and not the company which is providing the platform. Here it is Twitter which is providing the platform, it is Facebook which is providing the platform. In case there is a person who faces any sort of defamation issues, they cannot file a case against Twitter or Facebook. Instead, they have to file a case on a person who has commented or shared this particular article. This means that online companies, including social media platform, are not liable for the content shared on their website by its users. When it comes to United States of America, we have what is called as the First Amendment. What is this First Amendment? Basically, United States of America believes in what is called as freedom of speech. So the First Amendment prohibits the government from restricting most forms of speech as well. But when it comes to section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, it also has a provision where Twitter or Facebook or any other platform can come up with their own rules and regulations, which means the private companies have the right to remove the content that violates their own individual guidelines as well as values. So the private companies can create new rules, restrict the speech if they choose to on their very platform as well. That is why Facebook and Twitter in most of the cases ban what is called as the hate speech as well. Why are we discussing all this? That is because this particular section has been criticized both by the Republicans as well as by the Democrats. Why have they criticized this particular section? That is because when you look at the Republicans, they are the party which are conservative in nature. According to Republicans, they say that social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook do not entertain the conservative values as well as the conservative viewpoints. In this particular case, in case they have voiced the right-wing viewpoints, in such a scenario, Facebook and Twitter has barred the conservative viewpoint is the view when it comes to the Republicans. Then there are also Democrats as well. What do they say? They say that there are people who are voicing their concern, raising issues of fake news and also disturbing social harmony as well. In all these cases, Twitter or Facebook has not taken any penal action or they have barred that particular person from conducting such an activity. So we have criticisms both from the Republicans as well as from the Democrats. But what we have to realize is that this particular section was introduced in the year 1996 and now we are in the year 2021. So there is large number of changes. Why? Because we have seen what is called as the internet revolution. So what the number of people in United States of America speak about is bringing changes in line with the 2021 internet revolution. Since it is a world law, what we require is new changes that have to be introduced, updated, say some of the people with respect to this particular issue. We have to wait and watch what will happen in the near future, but as of now, this is what we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about World Health Organization. Kindly note this article will be discussed in segments and most of it is very important when it comes to your preliminary examination. What about the funding of the World Health Organization? Who does the funding to the World Health Organization? There are two ways of looking at it. One is what is called as the access contribution. The other is what is called as the voluntary contribution. What is this access contribution? Basically, they are the dues countries pay in order to be the member of the World Health Organization. So the amount that each member state will have to pay is calculated on the basis of wealth and the population of that particular country. This access contributions is closely associated with what is called as the GDP of that particular country and the population of that particular country. This accounts to less than one quarter of that particular funding. So the rest of the funding is by what is called as the voluntary contribution. So what is this voluntary contribution? This is the contribution that is made by individual countries apart from the access contribution. It can also be from the intergovernmental organizations, philanthropic foundations, private sector and other sources as well. When it comes to the assessed contributions, it is by the government, but when it comes to the voluntary contributions, it can be from anywhere apart from the government. So these are the funding patterns when it comes to the World Health Organization. Also remember, when it comes to the World Health Organization, it has been one of the primary institutions in ending the menace of smallpox as well. Smallpox also happens to be caused by a virus. Kindly remember, this can be a potential question in your preliminary examination. It was developed by Edward Jenner. He developed in the year 1796, but the vaccination received a boost with the World Health Organization prioritizing the immunization. Apart from this, what we have to look at is policy initiatives taken by the World Health Organization. We have what is called as the Global Public Health Intelligence Network. This was introduced by the World Health Organization back in the year 1997. What is it about? It predicts the potential epidemics using information on the internet and function as an early warning alert as well. So whenever there is an epidemic, it scans the internet and this information is collected and given to all the countries so that it can prevent the spread of the epidemic from one region to another region. Then we also have what is called as the Global Outbreak Alert Response Network. What is it all about? Basically, it provides international public health resources to control the outbreak and the public health emergency. They build a consensus, they come up with a uniform guiding principles for the international outbreak alert, and they also establish operational protocols as well. They also provide communication strategies as well. They also streamline the administrative processes to ensure rapid mobilization of all the field teams to that particular area. Apart from this, we also have to look at what is called as the Solidarity Trial. What is a Solidarity Trial? This is an international clinical trial that aims to generate robust data from around the world to find the most cost-effective treatments for the COVID-19. This was another initiative taken by the World Health Organization. Then we have what is called as the ACT Accelerator. What is it? The World Health Organization work with the European Commission and with multiple partners to ensure that once a vaccine is available, it's available to everyone, especially those who are at great risk. Such are the initiatives taken up by the World Health Organization. This article here is speaking about Harike wetland. Kindly remember, from the preliminary examination point of view, do remember Harike wetland is in the state of Punjab. It is also a wetland which sees large number of migratory birds flock to this very region as well. Harike harbors endangered aquatic mammalian as well as reptilian fauna like Indus River dolphin, smooth-coated otter and 7 species of rare freshwater turtles as well. Considered a wetland of international importance, especially as waterfowl refuge, this site was also accorded the wetland status in 1990 by the Ramsar Convention. So kindly remember all these important facts. It can be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about PJ Nayak Committee. This PJ Nayak Committee is one of the important committees that which was established by the Reserve Bank of India. What was this committee all about? Basically, they would review about the governance of the board of banks when it comes to India. What is this committee all about? What were its objectives? What have been the recommendations of this particular committee with respect to the public sector banks in India has been explained in one of our videos, and the link for the same will also be given in our description box. So kindly remember, PJ Nayak Committee was appointed by the Reserve Bank of India and it was speaking about governance of boards of banks in India. The link for the same will be provided, so kindly look into it. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, can courts stay laws made by the legislature? This has been explained on 13th January 2021 in our daily CNA. So kindly look into it for the discussion. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, stock market highs and economic lows. This is one of the important articles where it is speaking about the latest financial stability report. From the preliminary examination point of view, remember, the financial stability report is released by the Reserve Bank of India, and this also happens to be a biannual report as well. But what is it all about? What is the stock market high and what is this economic low will be explained in our economy this week. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. What do you understand by trans fat? Discuss their impact on health and policy initiatives taken by FSSAI and the World Health Organization to cut their consumption. Rising pollution of rivers in India is a significant concern for the Indian government and population. Examine the causes of their pollution and possible consequences. Please write all your answers on the comment section and peer review as well. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.